On this channel, we explore the lives of history's great peacemakers, to learn from them and to consider how we too might promote peace, well-being, and flourishing. In addition to the biographical videos, I like to add my own commentary to promote dialogue within this channel's community. I call these commentaries Peace Painter Ponderings. Today's pondering concerns the pursuit of happiness. What is it, and where does the idea come from anyway? In an earlier episode, we examined the life of the great peacemaker of the Iroquois and the impact that his great law of peace had on America's founding fathers and ultimately the U.S. Constitution. Now, the American and French revolutions were products of the Age of Enlightenment. This was the age when science and reason was to replace superstition and blind faith. One of the drivers behind the movement was the notion, the idea of natural law. Enlightenment thinkers in America, such as Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Thomas Paine, among many others, began to see how firsthand natural law and natural rights flowed logically from the natural state of the indigenous peoples like the Iroquois. Europe at the time had no such laboratories of observation. Indigenous cultures had long since been dispensed with on the continent. But they imagined their own ancestors lived in just such a natural state prior to monarchial rule. John Locke wrote, "We must consider what state all men are naturally in, born to the same advantages of nature, and the use of the same faculties should also be equal one amongst the other." This thinking, rooted in the natural world, gave rise to John Locke's famous philosophy that government existed for the purpose of protecting life, liberty, and property. Jefferson borrowed Locke's list, but adapted it, calling them unalienable rights, and that these rights included, among them, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To Jefferson, property was a civil right, protected by government, but not a natural one. The pursuit of happiness, as Jefferson had witnessed among the Iroquois, was natural and deservedly unalienable. In making this claim, Jefferson was tap dancing around a nettlesome issue, an issue that continues to dog mankind in its quest for peace. Our competitive striving for property in its various material manifestations and abstract forms is ironically, but quite possibly, our biggest impediment to shared freedom from need and ultimately peace. Franklin, Jefferson, Paine, and others recognized that the primitive state of the Iroquois culture was rooted in collaborative behavior and the sharing of all things. In 1795, Paine wrote, "Poverty is a thing created by what is called civilization." That is not to say that Iroquois were rich. Iroquois men owned no property whatsoever except for the clothes and weapons, and whatever women owned was mostly practical and modest. When chiefs were given gifts, they were shared communally. The Iroquois were so sociologically independent from personal gain that they would not work for compensation. To do so would be tantamount to servitude and surrendering one's freedom. Yes, these were people deeply rooted in true liberty and honest republicanism. The roots tapped deeper, however, than European colonists were likely to dig. At least that's the conclusion Franklin, Jefferson, and Paine came to. Yes, America would cast off the monarchical oppression of Europe, but it would need to settle on a happy middle ground, or a happy mediocrity, as Franklin called it, between what laid east across the physical ocean and what laid west across the metaphorical ocean of cultural difference. So the Founding Fathers, who authored the nation's founding documents, including, of course, the Declaration of Independence and Constitution, did so with a radical heart and a practical mind. The radical heart beating with the savage freedoms of the natural state, and the practical mind thinking with the civilized order of European culture. So what I'd like to ponder in this Peace Painter Pondering is a thought experiment. Namely, what would the world look like today had we taken Jefferson's third unalienable right more seriously than Locke's third role of government? In other words, what if early American culture truly would have taken the savage fork in the road based upon its own enlightened observations of natural law? How much more or less peace, well-being, and flourishing would we be currently experiencing if we really endeavored to define the pursuit of happiness and truly prioritize it for ourselves and others? I'm interested to hear your ponderings on the matter. What does the pursuit of happiness mean to you, and is there merit to a greater cultural emphasis on it? Please leave your comments below. If you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe or consider donating through patreon.com/thepeacepainter. Peace out.